Good evening. I call the Ordinance Committee for November 11th, 2025 to order at 6 p.m. Members of the committee, Ms. Stein Schmidt, and myself, President Ms. Kraniak, Mr. Myers, and Mr. Senate, President of the Administration, our Mayor, Mr. Overstreet, Chief Kovacic, Police Chief Mr. Chief Warner, and Engineer Brian Maluch, and Building Director Mr. Ben. We'll start if I'd like to welcome our Jeremy Ios to at this time from the first item on the agenda is continuing discussion on proposed updates to our policies and procedures manual. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Good to see everybody again. So I believe the plan for tonight was to kind of continue our discussion. You guys had a couple of weeks to plow through everything in there. And that's why I wanted to guide into a few things that might be the most relevant for you to look at. Take any feedback that you have today, make any tweaks or anything that we need to do. Then I know we have another date that 2 weeks from today.
Correct. It would be the potential plan would be the first reading would be the 25th, and then the two council meetings in December would be the second and the third reading with the potential as the correct. Right.
So it is mainly you guys kind of have the floor and let me know if there's anything you want me to take a look at, if you want me to add, get rid of anything you have questions about. I can either answer them tonight or something I need to go check back on and check back. You guys have any answers?
Sure. Well, so from just the ordinance meeting and then we'll let other members of council chime in. With those reports, Ms. Schmidt, if there were any questions you'd like to ask about the manual law. The only thing for me that I saw was I hope that someone will go through and they noticed like there was smoking of city property instead of smoking on city property. Things like that they clean up that they can.
Depending on what you have.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, we always do the last thing we do is sort of a clerical check, typo check, format check. We have one last time to make sure everything's formatted correctly.
Right, that seems to be my only real concern. Everything else looks really good.
Yeah, I'll actually have a couple of sub-bias go through to make sure we don't have smoking up the property.
Right. It was just, yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's another one. Anyway, so all those other members of council that I can ask questions.
No, I also didn't see we talked about doing exit interviews. That's something to be added.
Yes, we're going to have two exit interviews. That should be something from the policy manual. So we have a particular procedure, so we're going to do the same way across the board. I'll check the contracts and if there's anything in any of those that addresses exit interviews. Generally, they're usually business. Certainly, I have some template policies on exit interviews. So what I can do on that particular one is find the right section to add that to, plug it in, send it over to Caroline, or just sort of my conduit, and or Todd, but you guys can take a look at it before we meet next time.
Yeah, I guess the question is, when would an exit interview be required versus optional versus, is there any type of categories related to it then, I guess?
Generally, the way I do them is they are required for everybody. Sometimes somebody will even and not actually do an exit interview. It can be difficult to go, but you can, tie it to being checked, property, and eligibility to be rehired. Sometimes like I said, with an exit interview. So what I'll do is do that and maybe make it a little more restrictive than normal, so you guys can look at it and trim it a little bit from there. So, but generally, if you're going to have it, it's something you should do with anybody that's leaving us. Sometimes it's a bigger deal than others. But generally, having it should be kind of across the board.
Or during onboarding, you have to sign something that says you're understanding that there will be an exit interview at the end or whatever.
Yeah, and certainly there's times that there's two policy manuals
right.
in there. We can even add that to depending on our conversations here, add that as a sentence in the acknowledgement of receipt. to kind of piggyback on that, often when I do these kind of policy manuals, I do some sort of mini training at the beginning. I may have mentioned that before as well. And I did do like harassment and FMLA training as part of that. And so in the acknowledgement receipt, generally would say, receive policy manual, also receive training and harassment and FMLA or whatever else we may add to that. And that could be something else that we add in, like things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Trent?
Why would an employee, if they're being let go or they're leaving, why would they want to do an exit?
It's more for the benefit of the city that we know why you're leaving, because it's a satisfaction quality. It helps everybody all the way around. We do all the time, we do it for our
Someone
employees.
is leaving, why would, if I'm leaving today, why would I want to sit down and tell you why?
Well, you may not want to, but part of your onboard and understanding that you're accepting the policy manual, you are going to sit down and have an exit interview. I do it with all my employees, a lot of people do, a lot of businesses do. Gives you good feedback as to why you're leaving, and it helps us understand, are directors doing their job, is the city doing their job? Why did we lose 5 people in service?
Perhaps from a city perspective, we're doing our due diligence in how we handle all of our employees
Correct.
across the board, required for everyone. So, yes, you may not want to, you may be leaving on less than desirable circumstances, whether it's disciplinary or otherwise, that all been recorded, if there's a paper trail that follows all that along as well. So if they leave without the exit interview, well, then that also would reflect really on the individual's record, as far as references or anything else related to any hiring or whatever else that might come down the road. So, yes, they would want to, you're probably right. But if we require it, that puts the onus on the employee then to follow through on that.
Yeah, and just to kind of add on to that as well, usually if you're firing somebody, probably not a good thing. Kind of the exit interview is, you're fired, you're fine, that's how you know what the problem was. But if somebody's leaving, it is a good idea to find out why. And you can type the details of those who you're hired. Some people are still gonna go shit and not do it, but generally, if somebody gives the notice and those kind of things, and I would say I find that a lot of people want somebody to know. Sometimes it's just, I'm going to this other city because they pay more.
Sure.
And oftentimes people tell you that. So it's not as difficult as we find. Certainly if you fire somebody, it's not having to say,
Yeah. We have one last step. Anyone else?
So for the next thing I'll send, I'll add the exit interview. Probably won't do the, check the typos and that kind of thing before next pass and send it. I'll make sure we get everything in there so that once we do that. So we'll do the exit interview part. If there's any other thoughts that you guys have before next meeting, pop up, run that by myself or Carol, and we can take a look at that as well.
Yeah, the potential next dates would be, December 9th and December 23rd would be the 2 days in December as well, potentially, as far as when you're second or 2 days, so. But yeah, the next one, definitely November 25th for first reading would be preferred to do that.
So what I'll do is send it with the exit interview back over to you guys to take a look at that exit interview. I mean, just kind of, then we'll start going through, getting everything cleaned up and got a copy, and then I can be ready to make the first reading as well, so if any questions come up.
That'd be great. Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Everybody have a good night.
Thanks, you too. Okay, next item on the agenda is continuing our discussion of the nuisance ordinance, and we had some further clarification from Chief Warner, so let's turn over to him if I could, the information you had sent out with some of the statistics and other things that you're finding.
So, did everybody get what I sent out, copies of it? So really all I'm trying to do is go through the different elements that were in the ordinance and how we have stuff coded within our CAD system. And, came up with total calls, and that was from January 1st through October 21st. and then same location, like, I went more than 2 times, I think the language as it was, having it more than once in a 12-month period, I thought that was a little too restrictive. I went more than 2 times, and you can see where those numbers fell. We're at the same location all the time. But also, the way we code this stuff in our CAD is inclusive of a lot of different things. So we really have to kind of specify what the offense is and look at individual addresses. And from a standpoint of, if we do enact an ordinance from that on, we can kind of look at what the most efficient way to keep track of it is. But it's kind of difficult to go back and get accurate stats for everyone.
Sure, unless you actually read the specific reports that come
Yes.
back to that.
Yeah, because even with an animal complaint for a dog at large or something, you know, like I try to explain, we may have 5 calls from 5 different addresses, but it might all be the same dog.
Sure.
And it will only show up in the CAD screen that, okay, the dog actually belongs here, even though the caller's address was a different address. And that's where it would know if they got cited for it. You know, that's one way we track that stuff. And the same with disturbances that end in sort of the conduct citations. The call is still logged as a disturbance, but the disposition would be a citation for disorderly conduct. Yes, we would have to look at different ways of kind of tracking that information to effectively do it as a business. I don't know if you guys have any specific questions.
Is there any questions from Tom Schneider so far, as members of the council? Thank you for sharing those specific. I know it's kind of some umbrella categories and things.
Yeah.
How best to analyze that.
I did have a question.
Sure.
If you had to, well, a couple questions. So I noticed that one of them is a lot of alarm drops. We're supposed to be charging for those anyway for ordinances. Is that correct, Maybe?
That would be the policy.
Right.
I don't know, it's never come up with me, so.
I thought it was like $25 or something like that.
Yeah, I know there's a mechanism for it. I don't know if that's from our side or.
It is $25.
I thought so. Yeah, I thought so too.
I know the mayor never charges me. We park.
Looks like you're.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think that's something that hasn't been used,
Right,
but that's already built in.
okay. If you had to put it generally, and I should have asked you before, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, how much does the general call for service? I mean, how much would that normally cost the city if you had to say on average, a 20-minute from time of responding officer getting there to closing a typical call out for stuff like this? How much, if we had to put it down to I mean, other cities have, they've written it into this, which is that scale that we were talking about through Lakewood, but just so that people understand how expensive it can be per call. 331 calls in an 8-month period is a large amount of money.
Yeah, and it would be highly dependent on if we're sending 2 guys to the call.
Correct.
How long the call takes. It would be without looking at a lot of the examples. It'd be hard to come up with an average.
Okay.
Because I know some of them, firework complaints or noise complaints, maybe 10 minutes.
Right.
But some of them can be drawn out for an hour, you know, tying up 2 guys for what ends up being a disorderly citation.
Okay.
But a drug abuse could be court time and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For court time, paperwork, all that. Yeah, anywhere from 10 minutes to multiple hours.
Okay. Okay, and just so that everybody knows what I left you, and then I also sent you, we just, the updated safety committee minutes that Wilwick has. So they actually merged, they sort of did Lakewood, and then they also went to Seven Hills. And they have upped it, instead of 150, they moved it up to 250 for the first ordinance declaration, 500 for the second, 750 and up to 1,000. So those safety minutes are really, interesting to look at. I just wanted to make sure you guys knew what this was in context with everything.
Yeah, and I would think if you're gonna do some kind of penalty, I think that kind of scale works better than trying to figure out time.
Right, I agree. Yeah, I agree. And just so that everybody's aware too, it's not just about, it starts with that first police contact and the officer making the judgment whether or not that call is in fact a valid nuisance call, right? Then the next step of that nuisance abatement process would be the property being declared a nuisance. So that's kind of the second aspect of it. And then going on from there. And once again, the benefit to this is so that you don't have to go through the court system, start a civil process and try to sue, and then the court maybe not, being willing to collect any fines or anything like that. It just follows the property owner. And one way or the other, the taxes get abated just like we do with building. So it's kind of just the same process. That's all.
I just have a question. So I noticed, like, for instance, 331 complaints for service, okay? I'm assuming you don't have any idea how many of those resulted in citations or arrests or anything like that, do you?
Not without looking at the individual.
I was sure if you did or not.
Yeah, no, I didn't go through all of those.
No, I understand. It's a lot to go through. Just, I felt that, something interested in knowing that.
That's something I can look into.
Not to take it outrageous, it's not a time, but, I just thought that it was so, because well, what I'm saying is that they went up 331 times, how many of those resulted in arrests or citations? The animal-like, how many, there's 26.
Well, and, kind of as a general, especially with animal complaints, if we've been there multiple times, they're more likely there's a citation.
Probably.
Generally, we'll get warning the first time.
And probably if there's a fight, there's probably a citation.
Yeah.
All the time.
And then let's extrapolate on that. So if there's a citation, what does that look like? That then goes to the court, then if that person says, yeah, I can't pay it, then it doesn't get paid. And the court generally probably would not go after that. And it just kind of, it goes from there.
Or we'll do it.
Right.
And if you have some problem, if it's a city code violation, then you get the attorney's fees for the court appointed.
Right.
Right.
So, right. So then this would essentially bypass that. I mean, you're then going after and saying, yep, you don't pay it, that's okay. Taxes are. So, not to it. But I'm just surprised there's 422 calls for an alarm drop. Wow.
Oh, that's almost sure we get.
Wow.
Power was out.
Right.
Something like that.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Schmidt.
Randy, is it something that we can put on their taxes? I know sometimes you.
Yeah,
a little bit on this.
You really have two proposals in front of you. You have this training that Gary said is more expensive administrative process, and then you have the proposal that I had that just made it itself a separate criminal violation. The benefit of this training is that we avoid this process and go through the court. A lot of the violations, we also have court citations anyway, so in a sense, we may find ourselves that no matter what process we go through. The downside of doing it the way, just considering a code violation or a city ordinance violation is because there's no corresponding state code, if the officers decide to charge a nuisance violation for 2 or more, 3 or more, in addition to whatever criminal violation they're there for, they're entitled to an attorney
actually that falls on finance, so it wouldn't even fall unless it was initiated through building, so.
Well, another reason I say that, they already have a built-in process for sending out notices because planning and DDA, so I would imagine that would make the most sense for them to administer that.
So if the police had an issue and they declared the use as property, building would send that out?
I don't know that we have a built-in process yet. If we did, if we had something closest to a built-in process already, DDA planning, get rid of those from parents.
Right.
We have a process for sending out notices for hearings and all that stuff. We don't necessarily have another existing ordinance nuisance abatement committee process, so to speak. So that's the downside of learning curve.
Yeah, and I mean, it definitely is. I know that what Willow is planning on doing is police department would send that out for their side of it, building would send theirs for that side of it, their finance director is sending out the letter, and then if that person doesn't pay that nuisance abatement fee, then she can go ahead and send that to. Correct, Willowick, right. And then from there, it would go to the auditors, and then they would get abated on the taxes, just like the regular process is for building.
Yeah, I don't have a preference one way or the other, but I just know we don't have a built-in process.
Right now, right?
And when you said will, of course.
Sorry, not Willowick.
Of course, we'll be afforded to it.
Yeah, no, Willowick's doing it. That's just how they're handling it.
So that ultimately is what you guys do, direction you guys want to go in.
In the ordinance she proposed, was there there was an appeals process in there, correct?
There is, so what Willowick is opting to do, they already have a safety committee, so they're going to do, which already has the chief on it, and it has the mayor, and it has, like, 2 council people, 3. So that would be for their appeals process. Some cities, like Lakewood, does the mayor, the 2 chiefs, and the building. If it involves building, if it doesn't, they go to the chief, and they say, you know, let's save or whatever, it should depend on however you want to form it. However you want to do it.
You could make its way to have safety director do it.
Correct.
Within the safety director, cover your as a secretary already.
Right.
Assigned the safety director in a sense to assign an additional.
Yeah, it's up to you, however.
If there's something now in our, for the building side, that if someone has would like to make an appeal on what they come, they start with me, I hear them out and then say, yes, I agree with the inspector, or no, I agree with you, and handle it that way.
Our PDA, people often think it's just variances, but it's also appeals.
It is actually for zones.
So that's why in my mind,
Yeah.
they're kind of built in, but maybe in a sense it's just easier. I don't imagine there's gonna be that many appeals, so.
Yeah, I think Lakewood said they had one in like 4 years. I
Yeah,
mean,
so
it
maybe
just doesn't
I should
happen.
just go to the safety director for appeal and do that. Make it easy.
And then would there be a separate structure already in place if there's a citation, right? The citation has its own.
But they're gonna send a notice, more like a building department notice, I would imagine.
I think for the police side too, for the police, if they're citing them for anything, there's a structure in place for handling their punishment.
Yeah, I mean, the issue's gonna be to a certain degree, I guess if people able to break that down, let's just assume it's 50% of the calls also bring with a criminal complaint or citation. Whether you need another nuisance charge in that case, that seems kind of silly. So theoretically, they could charge a state code violation for a drug abuse violation, you know, maybe a fireworks violation. They can find a state code violation, they can charge a criminal violation for that. The public defender would be appointed, they can't afford an attorney, so we don't have that cost, this is a corresponding state code violation. And then the mayor's office could, if it's a third violation, the mayor's office could send out a separate nuisance notice violation, and if they wanted to appeal that, they could appeal to the safety director, they could appeal to the safety director. That would maybe be, in that instance, we have a criminal code that's under the state code, we won't get hit with that bill, so it makes sense to get a fine. And we have this second nuisance violation of the sensor, how we want to make it. That might be a smoothest way to make it happen.
But there was no state.
There's no, yeah, there's no.
The city would have to get a cost of public defender.
Not, yeah, Port Authority council, so the public are only defends state code cases. So in those cases where they charge on the city code, but they're still indigent, the opponent council agrees to bill.
So, and since I'm only going from a reference point from Lilith, I'll say this. What they're planning on doing is for the first two, if somebody comes out and it's $150 fine for dog alert, whatever, let's just say that. They can charge they can be cited for that, that's how that works. The second time, because it's put into the CAD, we've been to this property once, we now did the property twice. The officer lets them know, we've been to your property twice for the same problem, we cited you twice. The third time, you're gonna be declared a nuisance, end of story. And after that, they don't fine $150, they immediately go to this fee structure, which is $255, once you've been declared a nuisance. So, let me ask you this, so if there is a disturbance call or something like that, there is a citation for $150. What does that look like then? We have to provide, if it's a city code, we provide them.
If they receive a criminal citation at Williams Municipal Court.
Right.
If they're indigent, they're entitled to a criminal offense. If there's no state code violation charge, it's just city code.
So with or without the nuisance abatement process, that's still gonna happen?
That's still going to happen.
All right, that's all I wanted to make sure of, okay.
And I think part of what, here I say there's a frustration of how we go process a lot of these things. I believe that's also some of the basis for Will, like they're trying to find
Right.
to avoid the pacing, dare I say.
Right, yeah, no, you're spot on there. Thank you.
Yeah, I just got added that direction, but Ms. Kraniak's model that maybe the state director would be the compliment. I'm throwing it on there. Well, the cat's on the
But just right now with building though, we have the maintenance for grass. We also now started with the company for garden. We're just trying to figure out how this.
So you expressed,
Building.
well, so you expressed a couple times that it's frustrating on your end because you come out constantly, sometimes to the same addresses, and every time you hear it's the same thing over and over and over again. And you have the ability to say, we're gonna send you this one notice once within a calendar year, and then we don't have to send you out another one, but if it happens again, we're gonna come out, we're gonna abate it, we're gonna cut the grass, right? But now you have the ability to say, property owner, we've been out 3, 4, 5 times, we're gonna start charging you for your costs in building. And we're going to abate those costs, because it's costly, it's a cost that you guys are bearing every time you come out with those issues. And once those properties are declared a nuisance, that property owner, whether they're owner occupied or not, they're going to have to pay for it, and they're not gonna wanna do that.
I'll have to add those back into my draft and incorporate into your draft, because when we talked at one time, I focused my nuisance one on the chief's list.
Right.
And then I updated the rat and litter one for Dave and the lighting nuisance for Dave. So I would, if you wanted this tool to do what he wanted to do with his stuff, I mean, you just gotta give me that.
Well, let's go back to the lighting one. So I know this plan is starting a lot of, but how we handle it, I had to go back and forth with both parties for quite a while. It eventually got solved. But if I would have had to cite someone, I would have cited the person that made the complaint about the lighting. Because in the end, they were more of a problem than the guy with the light.
And that works that way too.
So the guy with the light actually worked with us, and when we talked to him, we actually came in, and we actually met with the lighting person. But the lighting person was, in the end, in my opinion, and I think some other people's, was the issue. So for me to run out and just say, cite the guy with the light, because this person called 2 or 3 times already and complained about the light, I don't think that's fair.
No, you're absolutely accurate, you have that discretion.
Right. I wanna make sure that.
Absolutely.
So people just don't call me and say, hey, sure.
So you could say the other party is working with
Right.
us, so that's what, right.
No, that's
So we
absolutely
can
accurate.
get it solved, but I guess
That was what they put up a huge,
the lighting person was there.
the lady, they would put up a fence that was bigger than your allowed.
It's almost like an abuse of a 911 system almost, to be an example, right?
She put up a 6-foot fence, but she put it up.
2 feet off the ground, that's right.
Right up.
Oh, that's creative. Yes, they already got it, that was at the stage, yeah.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
I didn't think we'll pass it.
Oh, you mean from council?
Yeah.
They moved it forward from the safety committee, so their council has not, done it. However, they were all in there and discussing it as well. From my understanding, it is going to go forward.
I added back just quickly the discussion, that we wanted item number 3 on the agenda. Continuing discussion, we like the speakers, Chief Warner and Mr. Simic had, added, e-motos and how, we wanted to just bring that up for everyone to hear, about what that would, just based off your email, Chief. Want to share your call out, or we read the.
Do we want to take a vote on moving forward with maybe the safety director? Or do you want to do another meeting?
I mean, is everyone feel comfortable moving forward with that proposal with the, with the safety director and
The safety director instead of ordinance committee or BZA? Makes more sense.
You also have the option of, once the legislation is presented and sent out to everyone on council, if there's any changes you wish to make, you can always just put it on, you can always put it on first reading and discuss it.
So, Mr. Chairman, could you say specifically what we're.
Yeah, just so I know the change, to use, similar to this Craniac proposal with a modification of the safety director being the administrative field. Fair enough.
Yeah, that makes sense. So,
So it's one person versus a committee.
safety director. Correct. And there's many steps in the process that can to this based on who would be involved in that.
Judges decide cases, so,
Right, so what we want to be the, forward. And we put on first reading, nothing to further discuss it if we'd like.
I won't get this first reading. I would feel like people will just have to not.
Oh, okay.
sounds like we're gonna pass it, I talked to Mandy on another thing today, it sounds like they're on Facebook.
I think I'm okay with moving forward for this team discussion of it this time. So we'll move forward with that. Thank you, sorry for that. All right, so item number 3, we had, added or talked about e-motos in the discussion, a couple of us with Chief Warner and, so Chief, we wanted to mention that briefly.
Yeah, so when we were looking at the e-bikes, electric scooters, personal assistive mobility devices, threw in the, monkey wrench of e-motos. Which, it's basically an electric motorcycle, but it doesn't reach the speed that a conventional motorcycle would. When I was researching the definitions that fall under this ordinance, the, like an electric bicycle has a motor less than 750 watts, and e-moto has 1,000 watt engine or higher. So, like, kind of a legal opinion, I would think, you didn't have to say on it, but I would think if it does meet the electric bicycle definition, that it would fall under the definition of motorcycle. Because the general definition in the ORC doesn't designate how it's powered. Just that it's, just that it's powered. And the e-moto doesn't have pedals. So I think that would
definition of motor vehicles to decide the traffic.
Well, we already have e-bikes defined in our ordinance. Well, yeah, it's in the 31 section.
Yeah, a lot of it's already in there, just don't think people really understand some of the requirements are.
And that's, this one document from Bay Village that they were putting out, actually, I like the Bay Village and like the under information. I think kind of combining the two would be good, but, also Bay Village updated their ordinance to include the definitions for the electric scooter and the electric personal assistive mobility device. So, if anything, I think we should mirror that language and add those two devices in, along with the educational campaign to explain all
So
of
we
it.
need to add things to the ordinance.
Just the definitions of electric scooter and electric personal assistive mobility device.
Schmidt, any questions on that? What would be the move forward at this point?
Moving forward and have them drop out section just for the motion to approve chief will make recommendation.
Yeah. There were motions to approve ordinance recommendation to add those two. Right, and we'll move that forward to drop that resolution. And then also, I appreciate I think that was kind of, and we're also at the same time receiving that information with the Bay Village, was kind of a cover sheet to describe, like that checklist for scooters and e-bikes and things that might be helpful for that education process, that they, as owners, take that on, that we can put in the businesses to distribute when things are purchased. Just so that make sure we're uncomplicated. We can have that. Yeah, I'm sorry,
I just want to bring up, I got an electric scooter, I can go 15 miles up to 15. When you talk about mobility devices, it's a mobility scooter.
I've seen some that could really fly, around 20, and just, they have no regard for even also.
I mean, typically you don't go that fast.
You're less than cops.
Take off. Take off the
I
government.
can't run anymore.
And, part of that whole educational aspect too, which would kind of be cool for the police department or NNL or any of those other activities that we have is, if we do like a helmet thing or a bike rally or whatever, we'll go ahead and license your new scooter for you or whatever. And then that would be a way that we could then hand out, QR codes so people can click on it and know, hey, this is what the law is. It could be worked in a lot of ways, I think.
Do test the truck thing, kind of thing.
Touch the truck, exactly, yep. Bring your bikes, your scooters, whatever, the license, not license it, but register it for you.
Item number 4, we've had, and I apologize, we've not actually moved forward, language on the HALO ordinance, Mr. Kramer had written up. It would be ordinance 525.07, and it would be amending it to, letter B would say that per se, an act of obstructing to the minority warning, like from a public official to maintain a buffer zone 15 feet from a police, fire, emergency commission and under investigation by a public official. And I can't recall if we actually moved that forward, it's actually in process legislation.
I don't remember either. I know I had to make a change to make the old DC.
Right.
I think the only thing I questioned that was Commissioner Carter was Mr. Kucinich. I think, I remember if you had an objection to that. The 50-foot range, yeah, how you do that.
I don't have an objection, I don't know, voting for it.
Okay, I didn't.
It's not an objection to the way we're doing it.
I think it's supposed to be a move forward, so I'll just get a list of those couple changes and do.
On board with this, sure. We'll move that forward then for decision. Thank you. And the last item on the agenda is, opening discussion of ordinances related to that, to a data center or, in the city. So I know that I had done a little bit of research and, pros, cons that were in between, and you could kind of put yourself in a silo as to what information you're looking for, kind of thing. But did Ms. Schmidt, Mr. Hunt, have anything initial thoughts
center, or is it just a rumor?
What's the status of that? You know?
I think just for the purpose of
don't think we have any kind of information.
We have not heard back.
We don't have information from our council, I think, on the data center.
yeah, I think it's just a general,
They have, reached out to get a permit for some demo work, for some of the small buildings up there. They not right yet, or anything.
In the grading plan,
I could try to reach out and make contact.
Big concern with data centers is the use of, immense use of resources. Lack of tax revenue, or basically, we serve a problem, very few employees are not going to be bringing in negligible amount of tax revenue to the community.
And even if they're environmental.
Noise, possible, there's electromagnetic radiation concern, et cetera. A lot of different things.
92, 96,
My concern when I asked that question was if somebody came in and said, this is what we're thinking about doing, and we're gonna change things, the legal aspect of it from them. Right, that's why.
these are complicated questions, because the ordinance, they're M2 and M3, I think, both over there. And it has both have a general provision that reads something to the effect of all other business uses and offices, something of that nature. So the question is whenever we change ordinances, in theory out there, that the prior owner always has the right to continue whatever uses were permitted in that district. We want to try to restrict that. It's different when we're expanding now. So you will that argument, that if it existed at the time we changed the ordinance, they have the right to continue with it. So I'm not saying I agree with continuing with that.
Same argument, does the same argument applies to zoning changes too, correct?
That's what I'm referring to, the zoning,
I mean, if you were to change the zoning to, for instance, lakefront,
you can just,
or, you know,
or marine
or
recreation.
recreation, sorry, yeah,
yeah.
but because they owned it prior to the change.
We have to be mindful of the taking, I think is what you're
Yeah, it
referring to.
is an issue. And also, there's those, both of those subsections, those are those code sections for M3, do have that one provision that's pretty broad, and it's something that affects all of the business uses.
But
It would come up when we had people in for the strip club and whatever.
Right.
This is another business use.
Not really. Right.
So are there ways for us to, we may not be able to stop it from coming, but could we restrict the size, could we restrict in any way that would prohibit them even wanting to come, because they won't be able to be against their use?
We don't have anything on the subject.
You want to be in front of me on that subject, but I'd have to talk to Dave a little bit to see what we have as far as noise and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
We would almost have to ban it, I think, first, almost like what we did with the marijuana dispensary, and then talk about it afterwards, or they could apply for CP, or they could do something after. I think the thought is to preemptively, right? So when you look back at the law firm, and you look back at the mitigation company, it's something that's come up multiple times, and we'd like to just preemptively say, hey, we're not for it, but after the fact, I mean, they're not talking to us, so we have no idea.
Ms. Moran?
Hi. Okay, so our last meeting with that group, they said they have no clients for such a data center, nothing like that. It was brought up a long time ago, you know, and so were like 15 other various uses for that property. And of course, by the time everybody gets around to doing their due diligence, they fade away. There is no current client for a data center. There is no current client for anything up there.
That's even perfect, that's even better. I think that's fantastic. So then banning them or putting a moratorium is putting us even in a better position legally.
It doesn't change much from my analysis. I think as opposed to, I know what everybody's concern is, but on the flip side, the question is if we change the zoning to to give a potential new purchaser more flexibility in doing residential development. Does that solve your problem? Because the developer will look at that property and say, wow, I can put a residential development in here, and I can make it be profitable. That may be the way you can get the solution you want, because you're making it more, available to the type of developer you want for that property. Right now, the residential developers have been really comfy because they know there's buildings sitting in there. The zoning doesn't, make it work. There's probably environmental concerns. If you solve that problem, you're not necessarily saying the existing ones can't continue certain uses, but you're now making it available for future developers who might want to build it there the way you want to build it.
Well, are there other areas in the city that would be able to facilitate some type of data center that we need to consider in general, or is that like the only place that would be?
Yeah, like 120 something.
From what I've heard, that would be the only.
Right.
Because the water, they require a ton of water in order to cool it.
Yeah.
So it's just a preemptive thing on our part. And I mean, I think if you can indulge me, I just really quickly, I promised that I would read something because I got it from a council person, and now if I can read it, I would appreciate it. If not. Dear members of East Lake Council and Ordinance, I'm writing on behalf of the Village of Timberlake to express my strong support for the proposed ban on the data center sites we choose. While I recognize the importance of econ development and technological infrastructure, I believe the potential cost of submitting any data center within city limits far outweigh any perceived benefits. Data centers are known to generate substantial noise, constant operation of cooling systems, backup generators. Such facilities can disrupt the quality of established residential neighborhoods. Mechanical noise would be constant disturbance to homeowners and fundamentally alter the character of the community. Data centers impose a significant strain on local energy resources, and the facilities require enormous amounts of electricity to power servers and cooling equipment, burdening existing power infrastructure and driving up energy costs for residents. It's also important to note that they create very few permanent jobs once construction is complete. Most facilities are automated and run by AI, require minimal on-site staff of operations. In addition, due to the abatements provided under HB 15 and similar state incentives, municipalities receive very little tax revenue for any project such as this. This means communities bear the environmental and infrastructural burdens without receiving meaningful economic return for exchange for valuable land and resources. The proposed site or any site within the city of East Lake on some of the most valuable scenic lakefront property in East Lake are natural assets that should be preserved and enhanced for public benefit rather than privatized industrial usage. Placing a data center would permanently block opportunities for community-oriented development, including creation of public access, recreational amenities, and we'll go through all this. For these reasons, noise pollution, energy strain, minimal job creation, tax benefit, and loss of valuable public assets, I hope that you'll consider a measure to prohibit data centers within East Lake's jurisdiction. Thank you for your consideration. And that's from Ryan Conrad, councilperson of Village of Timberlake. Yes, yes. And I think Mayor Morrow is here too.
Yeah, so, is there, Mayor Mark, if you'd like, are you here, would like to address this issue at all?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay, here, I feel prepared, pretty much Ryan addressed most of that concern, but I've been very involved with the legislators now at the rest of the state level. And they've got House Bill 427 going currently. And that basically is the main response program that's going to be basically help preserve our base load. Well, our base load is under major strain. And the problem is, these data centers with HB 15, they're along the building everywhere. The problem is they don't belong in residential neighborhoods because of all of these reasons, the obvious reasons. The thing is that, they're coming to mainly townships, mainly within also municipalities where they can come in. And they'll promise the world, but then again, can't deliver on most of the stuff because, especially most of the areas, if they were to say East Lake plant, they were to do this, they need water, okay, what they would do is for cooling. That would actually warm, the discharge would warm our area, we have more when we get that snow, more plowing, and so forth. Like again, it would also cause impact to the environment. We have a couple of all people's nests on there, okay? How would that impact that also? And again, we wouldn't hear crickets at night, we wouldn't hear birds in the morning, you know, we just drown out all that noise. And again, also the stress of health issues that are given from the RF and the DMF signals. It's a lot of people are very, very highly sensitive to it, and, you know, finding out more and more. And then with these smart meters coming in, we're gonna have to pay the price for it, because again, AI is gonna control who gets shut down to self-preserve itself. You know, this is a major thing. When I'm talking now with the representatives, I met with, Greg Lawson from the Buckeye Institute, and I've also met with, David Thomas, he's our District 65. He's very involved in House Bill 427, as you guys know, and pushing this thing through with, Roy Kloppenstein. And what they want to do with that, what I would suggest to them, we need these data centers, but we need to create, I told them, 5 areas away from residential areas, 5 shovel-ready areas where they can come and build their own power plant. It'll be natural gas turbine. Basically, we can build a data center simultaneously, and then within a year they can have that off and running and do some money. But we should be making money in Ohio. We're losing billions of dollars between the tax abatements, the sales tax incentives, also the income tax break they give for these LLCs coming in. I mean, we're losing billions and billions of dollars, and we need to turn that around and basically help us. And again, not to mention the loss of revenue that Eastlake is losing on that site because of the undervaluation. They've got all of Timberlake on the lake valued at about $780,000 per acre. I'm 1.46 acres. Mine's valued at $370,000. Whereas next door, the Eastlake Power Plant is valued at $48,000 per acre for that 120 acres. If it was valued at 9, it should be valued at about $90,000 or $90 million plus, which would bring about $5 million annually to Eastlake. Right now, you guys are only getting like $279,000 from that property. So, for all these reasons, and again, I think it would be a good move for Eastlake to make an initial move to just ban all of Eastlake. They can always come in for variance if they want, but we're seeing more that's the perfect site, actually put the renewables. Put solar panels there, create a nice park there, access for everyone, and you get a nice heating, and actually it can produce about 80 to 100 megawatts of power, you know, just with the solar alone. And again, we can transform it instead of it basically taking between 300 and 400 megawatts of power if they build a data center. So, these questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I think the mayor did it. The Eagles. With the Eagles there, they can't build it.
We put a
I
camera
don't think
there,
they're protected.
and if we put a camera there, the eagles will live. Any other, brief, comments you can start the discussion?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
we talk about data centers. And, I want to commend you on your work. I mean, it was excellent. It was not my favorite.
Yes, sir, you have your name for the record.
John, I wrote that Eastlake this one. You nailed just about everything, but one thing you didn't cover was the cooling towers. And what's happening with these cooling, they're using cooling towers. What's coming out of these cooling towers is a cloud. And these clouds, there are plenty of reports out there that are saying these clouds contain toxic elements, and they're being dispersed over these areas. And when researchers have gone in there to try to find data that would be able to give them the ability to analyze what's coming out, it gets stonewalled. So they're not able to get the data and the research that they need to see, okay, what is in these clouds? What are we being exposed to? And when they approach the construction foreman, whoever it is, they're telling them that the reason they're not getting it is because of industrial trade secrets. That's where they're going. It's an industrial trade secret, we might have to disclose that information. So this is a real issue when we start talking about these data centers. The bigger thing that I'm concerned with is that what I'm finding out is that it's not an accident that they targeted Eastlake. What they're doing, these data centers, they're putting up now last 5 years we've gone from like 374 data centers in the U.S. to over 5,500. That's how fast they're building these. If they're building them so fast, they're building these data centers, and before they're done, the technology is obsolete. So they're tearing it down and starting all over again. So they're going up everywhere at an alarming rate. And what their plan is to litter the lake shores of all of the Great Lakes, not just East Lake. And they're going to be cycling the water off of the lakes in order to cool it. And we're talking about billions of gallons a year per unit. And it depends on the size of the unit. They come in different sizes. They're not all one size. So it depends on the size of the unit as to how much water you're recycling off. Now we know that Lake Erie is one of the shallowest Great Lakes. Okay? Now, we don't know how many billions of gallons of water are in there, but if you start doing a calculation, you're going to find out how many years it's going to take before we're able to walk from Cleveland to Canada without getting our feet wet. Okay, so there's those concerns. And the bigger concern, like John was saying, you had mentioned, you go to find out what's really going on with these data centers, and you get stonewalled. And you get a lot of people talking about, I don't feel good anymore, it's stomachache, it's headache, I can't sleep, these types of things. But now we're talking about people who are concerned with their property values. If you get a data center put in next to your house, good luck trying to sell your house, because nobody's going to want to move in. So those are just some of the points that I wanted to cover. And like I said, I want to thank you on the work that you've done, and the people that did give you the feedback of their neighbor. All right? Thank you.
So, I feel like I want to be like, throw alarm at the same time, it might be wise to put in a moratorium, on data centers until we see what the state does, and let the state guide us in regards to legislation and that kind of thing. So, what would be an appropriate time for that? 5 years, just for now, and then we can, like Mr. Mayor said, they can come to us for various, there might be options to discuss it, but that seems
I think that sounds good.
appropriate to everyone.
I'd rather see it down out.
Yeah, that's entirely.
You're gonna do it, I think, in an ordinance, this free.
Yeah, I'd rather see that, personally, I'd rather see it down out, like, if they, the marijuana was banned, if we had changed that, so. The situation was, that we could always go back and change.
You'll have the same problem I raised before.
Understand.
Right.
But, so, Mr. Mayor, tell me what your thoughts about banning outright versus eliminating.
Yeah, but I just worry that people bought this property. It's their property, they bought it, so if we put this in now, what?
It doesn't sound like though that they were entertaining clients across the board, not really.
They'll be buyers, so.
But we know the difference in Buckeye, they had leases on multiple facilities on High Street that they were just wondering, and we put a moratorium, and they came back to us and it's reconsidered.
Moratorium gives you the same solution and the same risk. So if you eliminate contracts, you have a moratorium.
The other one was fine.
You can look more flexibility, gives more flexibility.
Just doesn't sound as violent.
Right. Do a 5-year moratorium on data centers.
Gives you a little more flexibility.
We 5 years, that way in theory, the state will hopefully figure something out and work things out with the legislation from.
Well, yeah, in fairness to the proposal, you would also give some time for maybe Brian to do some input on how the Army Corps is going to look at this stuff, and, that's when we're working on him, but it gives you the time, this is moratorium before, to let you evaluate the situation. It's something that there's a lot of moving parts, we certainly in good faith, we think that more is needed at this point.
Right, so we propose to move forward 5-year moratorium. For data centers. Thank you. So we now have the hour is already upon us, but I do want to have time for registration of the public. And so, for the registration of the public, remind speakers that all works will be directed to the chair, not all personalities are limited to 3 minutes per person, 30 minutes total. Is there anyone who wishes to address the ordinance committee? That is already here. Seeing none, we adjourn on prayer. Yeah.
So does somebody know where the closest operating data center is, operating,
Actually, no, we can do a quick search. I just know the properties that were also picked up and broken by IDA.
I think it's accurate.
And I know that it was the IX center that's being turned into a data center.
like operating.
We adjourned this ordinance committee at 7:03 p.m.
Item on council for committee meeting for November 11th, 2025, to order at 7:03 p.m. All members of council are present. All members from the administration are present, except for our finance director, Carol, who is absent. If there's anyone recording this meeting as a courtesy to the public, please identify yourself. Your fellow attendees know they're being recorded. Seeing none, the city is recording this meeting. Under legislation proposed, we have legislation number 111101, a resolution authorizing the mayor and director of finance to apply for a grant with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources through the Land and Water Conservation Fund and declaring an emergency. Mr. Rep?
Okay, what this is we're trying to apply for grants for the property down at Borax Landing by the river, which would include bathrooms, repair to the boat ramp, walking trails, evacuation of excess gravel, stuff like that, educational signs, property entranceway signs, and benches. Depending on how much money we get, we have to do a 50% match and we can figure out what we can do with this list.
Any questions from that? Ms. Brown?
Well, I spoke with Ms. Bennell this afternoon, she said that 144 people responded to the survey, which she was really excited about. That really helps for statistics for the grant, which is with the language that she put into it too, so that was, she was really excited about that.
I just have a question, Mr. Mayor, with the boat ramp. So, from what I understand, that is a conservancy there, and there wasn't supposed to be any boats that have a motor, so it was almost supposed to be kayaks, things like that. What is that your understanding, Joe? What are they talking about doing with the boat ramp specifically? If it can't be a motorized boat?
I don't know.
Jason, you're on the board, so.
Yeah, so, I think that, like you said, it would be more like for kayaks and canoes, because it's not only that, but the city already has a public boat ramp from which we drive some revenue. Yes, on our portfolio, absolutely. But I think that it is like we're thinking more along the lines of kayaks and canoes and rowboats and non-motorized vessels is what we're talking about.
So then I'd say the only concern that I have is it competing then with the kayak launch that's down by the thing.
Which when people bring their own, it's only like a $2 thing, and that's largely on people's arm anyway. That need to, you can do the same thing there. You can just take a drop cost for people at $2 or something like that. So just to put their own in, but yeah, there's still only going to be one rental facility.
Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to legislation number 111102. In order to appropriate the expenses of the city of Lake of Ohio for the period beginning January 1st, 2025, and ending December 31st, 2025, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Mayor?
Okay, this is the money in several funds. The 240 fund is the workman's comp fund. Our bills for workman's comp have been more than anticipated, so we haven't into that. Finance department is the two people that we were hiring. We have hired the HR/payroll person, and we're still looking to hire the second one. The law enforcement fund is the repairs needed to the building. Most of the funds for repairs have been used, so the chief has designated a couple of funds that he wants to draw from to repair the roof. That's the 310, 314 section. The compensated absence funds, that's the fund that was discussed at the last meeting, to which we pay out people that are retiring or leaving the city for unused vacations, sick time, comp time, things like that. So she's anticipating that, we need to add some more funds to that, to cover our expenses.
Any questions for that?
I just have one question. In the last council meeting, I asked the finance director if that's just one position. She said one position only, but with two different descriptions. So one person left the finance department, and you're saying that we're hiring two people?
She's not going to hire a second person, but we're not doing that just yet. We're hiring one person. The first description is HR/payroll.
And both of those are full-time positions?
Yeah.
So we took one person away and we want two positions.
One person's going to be doing two jobs. And we haven't decided to do the second person yet. It's an anticipation.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for that? All right. Seeing none, council full committee meeting is adjourned at 7:08 p.m. On the regular council meeting of November 11, 2025, 7:08 p.m. Councilman Carniak, please lead the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Katrina?
Here.
Mr. Kelly?
Here.
Mr. Kraniak?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt? Here. Mr. Salmon?
Here.
Mr. Simon?
Here.
Mr. Myers?
Here. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for the regular council meeting of November 11, 2025?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Kraniak?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mr. Katrina?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes, the motion is carried, the agenda is approved. A motion to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of October 28, 2025.
So moved. Sorry.
Okay, we have a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Kraniak?
Yes.
Mr. Katrina? Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes, the motion is carried, the minutes are approved. Our next scheduled council of the whole committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, November 26, 2025 at 7 p.m. With the regular council meeting immediately following the adjournment of the council of the whole committee. With that, we'll move on to committee reports. We had, you don't have either. All we had was ordinance committee, correct? Correct?
Mr. President, this evening we discussed, 5 items, and we have Mr. Osu, HR attorney, to discuss, the proposed updates to the administration policy procedures manual. We hope to put that on, first reading at our next meeting, the next council meeting. We discussed and moved forward, wording on nuisance ordinance. We also moved forward wording on legislation for e-bike and scooters, and as well as Halo ordinance. And then lastly, we began the discussion and decided on a moratorium on data centers. And with that,
Any questions? Any questions for Mr. Kelly? All right, seeing none, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kelly. We'll move on to the recognition of the public. Is there anyone who wishes to address council? All right, we'll move on to legislation proposed. Clerk, please read legislation number 11110.
A resolution authorizing the mayor and director of finance to apply for a grant to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources through the Land and Water Conservation Fund and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to suspend rule requiring separate readings and reading through both? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Simon?
Yes.
Ms. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Katrina?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Kraniak?
Yes.
Mr. Salmon?
Yes.
Mr. Myers?
Yes. Is there a motion with that?
move to adopt.
Is there a second? please read legislation number 111102.
In ordinance to reappropriate for the expenses of the city of East Lake, state of Ohio, for the period beginning January 1st, 2025, and ending December 31st, 2025, and declaring an emergency.
Is there a motion to suspend the rule requiring second reading to read the full?
So,
Is there a second?
second.
Will you please call the roll?
Mr. Katsounis?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Reniak?
Yes.
Ms. Schmidt? Yes. Mrs. Stomach?
Yes.
Mr. Sonic?
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes. Is there a motion to adopt?
I move to adopt.
Is there a second?
Second.
Will you please call the roll?
Mr. Katsounis?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Reniak?
No.
Ms. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mrs. Stomach?
Yes.
Mr. Sonic?
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes. The motion is carried. The legislation is adopted. We don't have any pending legislation. We don't have unfinished business. And we don't have any new business. We'll move on to administrative reports. Our first report is from our Health Safety Director. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Just so there's no misunderstanding with that last legislation, they are not hiring two new people in finance. There are two people in finance currently doing the same job as one is being trained. So that extra money accounts for the new person here. There's not two people. Does that clarify for
Yes.
everybody?
Yes, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, first reports from our Health Safety Director. Jim Overstreet.
First of all, thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to congratulate everyone on their elections and re-elections. I have met with Mayor-elect Stolick and given him all the resumes for safety director. He's gonna look them over, we're gonna get together and decide who we're gonna pick. And with that, I am open for questions.
Are there any questions for Mayor Overstreet?
I have a question.
Councilman Crowder?
How many applications were there?
I put them off the top of my head, 6 or 7. Some of them were internal.
And can we get a copy of, either the resumes, applications, or a list of the applicants?
I don't see why not.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if you could do that, I would appreciate it.
In the past,
Hold on.
the city council interview directors,
No,
but we did meet them in the past, would we?
we've met them before, we approved it, yes.
Right.
We brought them, he brought in, Mr. Doraz for us, we have any questions of before we, approve the plan.
And we have to approve all director appointments anyway.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll move on to our fire chief, Frank Evasive.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fire department, Monday hired a new firefighter, so with your permission, I'd like to swear him into the next meeting, if that works for council. We appreciate the opportunity to do that, it's great for the family, community to see. Through that, we will be participating in live fire training, all members of the fire department next week. It's really critical, we haven't done it in quite a few years. Kind of complicated to pull off. It will be happening in all of the career center. They have burn buildings going on. Also, we're currently doing some additional training at a house that we acquired on campers. So, very active time in the fire department right now, but again, with your permission, with this one, we firefighter and next council.
Any questions? I'm sorry. No, yeah, it's not a problem, chief, certainly, I'll, we'll let that, anybody have any questions for chief? All right, seeing none, thank you, chief, we'll move on to our police chief, Michael Warner.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. We had one officer start a week and a half ago. There leaves us one current vacancy to get to our budgeted amount. With the, just to note, I know we're coming up on the budget for next year, and during this discussion as well, with the reappropriation of funds, that's something I'm gonna be kind of pushing for an increase in my building maintenance. This past year, my budget was $20,000 for building maintenance, and I think I was through that by the building. Basically, they said the condition of the roof is, like, it's just gonna continue to develop holes. There's no oil left in the fabric to protect it. So I know new buildings are a way down, but we're gonna need to do something to address the roof on that building sooner than later. Other than that, I don't have questions.
Any questions for the chief? All right, thank you, chief, appreciate it. We'll move on to our chief building official, Dave Mayor.
All I have is there's a planning commission meeting Thursday. There's one item on the agenda. These folks came in front of us about a year and a half, 2 years ago. It's for the bar down the street, right down here. They never kind of followed through with it, so I'm sending them back through the process of CDP, so that come here and from the council.
Any questions, Mr. Mayor? Ms. Kanye?
What bar are you referring to?
I don't know the official name of it, but it's the bar right out, it'll be right on the end of the shopping strip right down here.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know if they.
They use it all right.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. All right, thanks.
So, but I don't know the name of the new one. I don't know if they officially made that name.
Any other questions for Mr. Mayor? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our city engineer, Brian Miller, for that Ordinance description, hopefully.
Yes, well, so, thank you, Mr. President, and, just to reiterate, congratulations to everyone on their election. And also thank you to the residents of Eastwood for passing the road renewal levy. That's gonna be a big help to keep the roads in good working order. Looking forward to working with the new mayor and the new service director, and making sure we get the road prioritized. Some of the updates, we had the announcement that State Route 91, working on the lane switch, and exit ramp open this week, weather permitting. Waiting confirmation if weather is permitting, for the construction group. As soon as I get that, I will pass information along if there's any delays to that. The Lakeland Boulevard Phase 2 construction is underway. The base repairs are just about done. Again, as soon as the weather clears out a little bit here, we should be able to get the paving in and get that project wrapped up. And then, the other news that I have is the, equalization basin. We did get a successful bidder, for that project. The bids for that one came in at, $9.8 million. And combined with the phase 1 portion, brings the total project to about $11.2 million. When we first did the project out as, one combined, we were at 14.4. So making some of the, adjustments to the site, to the tank, and, allowed the project to save about $3.2 million. So, thank you to everybody on the WPCC committee, for helping steer that along. The only other information I have is we had our committee meeting tonight, wasn't, prepared, but, the next meeting I will have 3 ordinances for stormwater. Nowhere near as exciting as what you guys have been dealing with, ordinances, but working with, Mr. Clanner, Mr. Ben, we got just a few tweaks that we're gonna look to clarify and hopefully get those available for the next meeting. And then, so I'll have, hopefully those 3 get approved and legislation ready by the end of the year, as well as we'll have legislation, for the second phase of that EQ tank. Willoughby should be approving it tonight, so once they have that, then we'll have, legislation just authorizing Willoughby to enter into the contract with the joint project. So that's all I have. With that, I have a question.
Any questions, Mr. Mayor? All right, thank you, we appreciate it. And we'll move on to our law director, Lincoln Clemmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Lewis is being kind. His drafts are sitting in my desk. The mayor and Timberlake is here. The parties have been working together to come up with a new memorandum of understanding. I had thought they had a meeting tonight, so I'm going to presume I'd be if you're getting bored, they have my dates wrong. Okay, that's all. We're working through that process. It seems like we're pretty close to some language, just finalize the relationship and back on terms of using the city ordinances. So hopefully I'll hear from the lawyer tomorrow that everything's going good, whatever changes we can do. Well, the other thing is, I imagine with things like this, one of you maybe calls that there was a dog that was injured or killed at a local pet grooming place. We're working through it, trying to figure out, it was a pet grooming in somebody's home, I think, so we're working on that, trying to figure out. I talked to Jack and or did make it where, I think it was the police department, they just went to the prosecutor, I talked to them. There's also some prosecutors that work with the society, trying to decide whether we need to incorporate them, and not sure if there was any criminal violation, but I imagine with things like that, you guys probably some type of call or email, so it's coming on that phone. Other than that, no more questions. Questions, which question?
Seeing none, just want to remind everybody today's Veterans Day, so thank you, veterans, for your service. With that, this meeting is adjourned at 7:24 p.m.